Hello. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how good Google Bard is at A-level history. So to begin with, what is Google Bard? So I asked it this question. It's a language model chatbot developed by Google AI, and it uses a huge amount of data to generate text responses to questions. So in other words, it's virtually the same as ChatGPT. It's Google's version of a kind of AI chatbot that you can ask questions. You can ask follow-up questions on a variety of topics, and it'll give you a response. So in my last video, I asked ChatGPT 3 A-level history questions, and I'm gonna link to that video in the description so you can check that out. And see how well ChatGPT did at A-level history. So in this video, just in terms of fairness, I'm going to ask Google Bard the same 3 questions, and we'll see how it gets on. So the first question is about Charles I. In reference to the year 1625 to 49, how accurate is it to say that Charles I was personally responsible for his downfall? So let's have a look at how Google Bard gets on. So, made a number of poor decisions. Okay. So it gives a reasonable response, doesn't it? It's got paragraph 4, a paragraph against, and a very kind of limited conclusion. It hints at some evidence, decision to rule without Parliament, decision to raise taxes without Parliament's consent, decision to imprison his opponents. But it's not really an essay, is it? It's not really a kind of essay response. I think in terms of that question, ChatGPT probably did better there than Google Bard. So let's see how it gets on with the next question. So these are all A-level history questions. So you'd be expecting a kind of essay answer. So this is about the civil rights movement. How far did the civil rights movement achieve its goals? Okay, civil rights movement progress. Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act. However, the movement did not achieve all of its goals. Housing, employment, and education met with resistance. It was a powerful force for change. They helped make the United States a more just and equitable society. The movement's successes helped to inspire other social movements such as women's rights movement and gay rights movement. That's interesting that it talks about those other movements. I don't think ChatGPT did that. Again, we're getting a couple of paragraphs, some more detail here. It does give some specific examples. It doesn't really go into levels of detail on the kind of limitations. And it hints at the goals similar to ChatGPT, but rather than setting them out, there isn't a kind of introduction either that you'd expect. But it's a decent, introduction to an answer. Okay, last question. So this is the broader question on turning point in British democracy, and to what extent the 1884 Representation of the People Act can be considered the most significant turning point in British democracy within this 100-year time span, 1828 to 1928. So let's have a look at how well it does for this broader question. Okay, so 1884 Representation of the People Act was a significant turning point. It extended the franchise, a result of a long campaign for democratic reform. Talking about the consequences, a voice for millions of people, reduced social tensions, but then a kind of counterpoint. Some said it was too radical, others said it didn't go far enough. Right, so it's only talked about 1884, which is interesting. If we compare that to ChatGPT's response, which didn't really talk about 1884 in any detail and talked about other significant turning points, whereas this is giving more detail on 1884. Obviously, in terms of an essay, you'd be expecting students to talk about a number of turning points and compare them back to 1884. We'd be looking to define what we mean by turning point. Perhaps unprecedented, widespread, long term, those kind of things. So we get some good detail about 1884, but it's not really giving us that broader answer that we need. So overall, how good is Google Bard A-level history? Again, just the same as ChatGPT, it's useful. It gives an overview and it kind of could start a discussion on a topic. What is it left out? And its arguments. It's good for research, like a kind of research assistant, like Wikipedia, and you can ask it follow-up questions to go into more detail, but it's not detailed enough, is it? A-level students do know more detail, just the same with ChatGPT, and exactly the same as ChatGPT. Where does it get its information from? Is it up to date with historiography? Interestingly, it gave different arguments to ChatGPT, which suggests it's getting its information from somewhere else. So what I thought could be an interesting activity could be to compare the answers you get from ChatGPT and Google Bard together, and then kind of see which is most useful, or just compare the differences. I do think ChatGPT at this point gives more essay type answers. Google Bard, again, it's more of a kind of introduction rather than attempting to answer the question fully, but both of them obviously do have their limitations, and I don't think can replicate the level of detail, the level of analysis that A-level students can do. But it's a useful tool, as I say, for research into a topic. So if you haven't seen my first video on ChatGPT, check that out as well. Thanks for watching.